This is the beginning of tape 2. Leon Zylberman. What were the relationships between Jews and the Goyim in Warsaw before the war?
The relationship was always anti-Semitic. They only found always one good Jew. A Polak, oh, I hate the Jews, but I know one Jew, he's a good one. They always find one good Jew. The rest of them was no good. Same thing my father. He had a store in Warsaw, watchmaking store. He used to come and then always a clergy, a Polish clergy. He was well known in the Hebrew. Whenever he used to come into the store, his greeting was, Tov Shemagoy Maroik. My father tried
You want to translate that for me?
Well, the translation, Tov Shemagoy Maroik, even the best of the Goyim is going to be killed. It was a bad thing in the thing. It's a bad thing. It was a bad thing. It shouldn't have been written like this here. This was hate. How do you tell them that the best of the Goyim should kill? There's still some of them, good ones too, but not the best of the Goyim. This was the slogan. I'll never forget it. Every time he came, my father used to explain him and try to turn it around to make it easier.
And the clergyman used to say that saying?
Every time he used to come in with the greeting, he said, Dzień dobry, good morning, Tov Shemagoy Maroik.
And what did your father say to him?
And my father used to tell him that the time that this was written, at that time, there were certain things which, good ones, they became later on, after a while, they gave a knife in the back. And that's what he meant to tell him. Well, listen, he was supposed to be a good friend of mine, so on. Why did he have to kill me later on? That's why my father explained it to him. He took it, for an understanding. And he was, till the last time I met him, I saw him, was right in 1939, before the war all started. And it was, I never forget his slogan. I remember it.
Was he
I was
helpful?
against it. I hated it. Because why? They are people. They are uniform. They're all people. They are good ones and they're bad ones. But are the Jews good? No. They could have done a lot more. They could have done a lot more to save the name and save the people. Listen, I don't have to tell you, Israel, do the camp, do the ghettos. Anyway, there was people here around there. They were collaborating also with the Germans. It was funny. We can't even talk about it because we're just spitting ourselves in the same dish that we're eating. We can't.
Was this clergyman ever helpful to the Jews?
Well, not that I know. Not that I know.
Were you able to hear radio programs? The radio. Did you hear the radio?
Well, the radio at that time was a luxury. It was a luxury.
Did you have one?
You had one radio at the time. Radio was not like here. You had to be paying monthly for using the radio. It was mainly music and so on. Of course, news was once in a while, but never Jewish radio and Jews. No, only Polish.
Were you getting news of the outside world on the radio?
Outside world from the use of the radio, yes. Only it was censored. They only giving certain things which was good to tell to the people. Otherwise, there's nothing news like we have in here, free news, what's going on in the whole world. No.
Did you hear Hitler's speeches? Hitler, did you hear him speaking?
No, Hitler's speeches, we heard him after he came up, after the war started up here. Just the first time, the beginning. After that, we had to give up all the radios. Anybody has a radio hidden, he was committed to death.
When was that?
It was 1940, soon he conquered. 1939, September the 1st. I'll never forget that day. I was that time, when I started, I became so involved in my watchmaking. I started to make a clock by hand. was right, started in 1938. I was making everything by hand. And I was so involved in it that when the war broke out in 1939, and I remember the time the first bomb hit the building. Not the building, it was outside the building, it was the trolley was going through there. And by that time they used to make a barricade, they call a barricade to stop Hitler from coming in. And the bomb hit that barricade, and all of us went down to the cellar to hide. The cracks used to fall up from the walls, and then it became so dark we couldn't see each other. We used to talk, "Are you alive? Are you alive?" And then we got out of the cellar, and that was the death started around that time. I still was working at that crack. I couldn't get away from it. In the time, of course, the Polacks would not give in so easy to Germany. It was that time the President Mosticki, and they were talking on the thing on the radio, which was on a two-way radio, which only people could hear it. It's without a radio. And we're going to not give it out. We wouldn't give it in a button even to the Germans. No, a button didn't give them the whole country. Germany started falling inside there. And we heard about that was going down in Germany, the Jews, the Hitler came to power.
How did you hear about that?
We had some German, I remember some German Jews. He was thrown out from Germany because he was not a citizen, a German citizen. In the beginning, they were just taking out all the strangers. He came to the store that time and he started to tell us what was going on there. We listened that time with one ear in and one eye. We did not believe it. We couldn't believe it what was going on that time. And then, of course, till we started to find out ourselves.
What were the first signs of danger for you?
First, the beginning was not. We didn't believe whatever they told us. And some of the elder people was telling us about the First World War, that the Germans wasn't so bad, they wasn't that good, we all will go to work, that's all. But then we minimized it, we didn't want to see the danger, because human people don't like to hear the things, the bad ones. They like always to hear the better side of the story.
What were your parents talking about at that time?
My parents knew about it, but we talked about it, what we were talking, we didn't know. We figured we were going to try the best in order to be able to survive it. But they wouldn't think about concentration camps, mass destruction. People treated people like trash and denigrate them, make them to the worst thing of any ways possible to understand what they could do to people.
Was there any attempt on your family's part to leave Warsaw? Anybody talk about leaving Warsaw?
Well, they were starting at the beginning, they were starting to leave. Some of them families, I remember one family, which I gave him so much credit. In fact, there were two sons, which were my friends. One day I came up to the house, nobody there. The minute they heard about us here, they left everything in the house and they took off. They were from Zamość, from a different city, and they took off. The family of them. And I said, how could they do that here?
Where did they go?
They went to Russia. When Poland was divided by Germany, half was Russia and half was Poland. So the people who ever ran away, they went on the Russian side. And of course the Russians at that time, in the beginning, they opened the door. Anybody wants to come can come. There were the German soldiers watching one boat with this side and the Russians. And
did those people survive the war in Russia?
A lot of people, the beginning, that was the beginning. Later on turned around different. So what happened, the people there, they had to smuggle themselves in. They were hired smugglers, make money to get the people smuggling. There was the river right on which divided the Russian, the Poland in two. One side was Russia, one was Poland. And a lot of people were fleeing. They were fleeing. And how to flee from Warsaw, from different towns, to go down to the Russian side was also dangerous with life and death, because the airplanes, the German airplanes, the Messerschmitts, I remember, they were flying so low. Anything was moving, there was killing, machine gun killing. There was thousands of people dead was on the road.
Did your family talk about leaving Poland?
Well, we did not, at that time, leaving Poland. The only thing was that one of my brothers, his brother,
Which one?
Jacob, he went out right when the war, when the Hitler was in already. At that time, there was no water. It was not, he had to go out and get some water to the bucket.
You remember the date?
No, there's around 39, October, between October and November, around this time, to get the water.
Of 1939?
So yeah, 1939. We went down with the bucket of water. Naturally, there was a lot of all the Polacks over there. And there were the assessments saying around there, watching that we shouldn't be too much problems there. So one Polak saw my brother, and they told right away the Jew, he went to the assessment. Yeah, this is the Judah. So the assessment put him stay there, and another couple of Jews stayed there. Soon he turned around. My brother took off. Came home with the fear, with the anger. I am not going to stay here. I have to get out of here.
And where did he go?
No, at that time, the neighbor of mine, one of my neighbors, Abramovich was his name, he was ready to go away, to go to the Russian side over there. He had his wife and a daughter, beautiful daughter. His friend was about the same age of my Esther. And he went away. He came up to our home and said, look, I am not going to stay here, I'm going to leave. And my brother was said, look, can I go with you? And we talked about it. My mother was saying not for it, and my father was not for it. Why, where would you go? What's going to happen to you? How will I get? And finally we gave that time. I remember I was that time working, I make money. I think the 100 zloty, you take this with you. And he went with this Abramovich together. He got like he was taking care of my brother. And he got over to the Russian side. Russian side at that time was flooded with people. What do they call them?
Refugee.
Yeah, refugees came down. They wouldn't find a place where to stay, where to live. It was everywhere, every room, 15, 20 people. And he finally had enough money that Abramovich, and he got rented an apartment. And he was there together with him.
Did you ever hear from your brother until after the war?
Yes, I heard from him. Right after that, my brother, I told him that time that I wasn't going to do, so he used to give out notes with farmers used to come back to Warsaw with notes to get me to the note, how to smoke myself going back. I was ready that time, preparing myself also to go. But when the time came, I got prepared myself. I had my little suitcase. My father came along. You going to leave us too? I couldn't. I said, no. I took it off. What's going to happen to you? Happen to me. And I said, I couldn't. I decided to make the best out of it.
What kind
Then he sent us from there. He sent us a package. I remember the packages he sent us. He was went to work right away. He became a Stakhanovich. It means I rode. He was the first person in the clothing business. So they gave him a vacation. I remember that time. He had a vacation to go to Kiev for a week's time. And I said, here is the death. There is life. He works. He goes to school there, not a penny to school. Thanks to the school there, he could write the books. He could accumulate so much knowledge over there in Russia. So he was. One day we got a package, I remember. It was sugar, and what you call sugar flour. Some of them cooked. It came in already. The war was on, but then they still got the package. It saved us a little bit to help. We got 2 packages from him. I sent him a package that time, clothing. It was cold that time. The winter was around there. When he came there, it was around January, February. And he was there. And started up right after the winter. People was trying to go down there. Hitler made it a little easier in the ghetto, not to make so much problems. Although the problem was dead. It wasn't dead like before. And people used to say, we're not going around there. They used to make fun about the Russian soldiers. They haven't got even the right belt out for the guns. They go with strings. They had heart. They had feelings. My brother took sick that time. He got the sickness. And he went in that time. A woman took him in. A Russian woman took him in. He had high temperature, and she helped him out, and she made him well.
What kind of anti-Jewish programs happened then in Warsaw? The pogroms?
The Polacks. It was going good, and then what I do is here we was in the ghetto.
When did you go to the ghetto?
Right in 41. Started the ghetto.
Do you remember what month?
Huh?
Which month?
I don't remember that month. I know that time.
What time of year?
In 1941.
What time of year was it? Spring,
what time
summer?
They started up right Pesach.
Did you have to leave your house?
Oh yes. They came out that time. We were living in the house there with the store. Came an order. Certain streets have to be vacant. All of them, whoever there left in, had to move out. Anybody we're going to find, it will be committed to death. They killed so many people that time, had to get out. So we had to find a place down there, not too far.
About how many blocks away was it from where you lived?
The ghetto, we were close to the ghetto. The ghetto started near Tvarda. We were living in Tvarda, but a different street next to it. It was only about half a block from the home.
Could you take anything along from home?
Well, what could we take? Whatever we had. My father took some tools, that's all. And the rest of them, what can we do? We didn't have room even to stay there. And at that time, my brother was caught. 2 brothers. 2 before the ghetto started.
Which brothers?
Before the ghetto started, they were coming out, they needed help, Jews and slaves. Because there was in the Polish Congress, they were cleaning out all the intelligence. And they were killing them to bury them. They took some Jews over them, and they go down help out to bury them.
Which brothers was that?
Huh?
Which brothers?
My brother Meyer and Moshe. They both was killed at the same time. They got time to think. And after a couple of days, they came again for him. One day, Meyer didn't show up, and Moshe didn't show up. Well, you don't know how my mother was feeling about it here. I don't have to tell you. Taking away 2 young boys, 2 beautiful boys, and things been gone there every day, catching people like the dogs, like the things. Before they take them away, even before that, then how many beating, how many troubles they used to go through.
What happened to your brothers? Where did they go?
They went down that time. I didn't know until I found out after my Meyer got away from my Danek. He got away from my Danek that time. That was the only thing we could find out. When he got there to my Danek, in the beginning, they were building that time, the camp. And for the building the camp, they used to have the lumbers piled up in a triangle way. They took them, and of course they was taking stuff back and forth to the camp, building up my Danek. My Danek wasn't built up that completely. So one day my brother saw that It's impossible. It's going to be here more than that. So he said, I am going to run away from there. So he was talking to another friend that says the same thing too. But the other one, what I don't know what happened, but my brother was climbed up on this pile of the lumber, the triangle, and he put himself down there inside there, and he was staying there. He was staying in that inside in that pile, in that lumber pile, and the assessment was outside there watching that place there. Now, he was staying there until he noticed that the assessment is taking a little nap. He got out there and went out on the highway. He had himself prepared a
Civilian
jacket underneath and the stripe on top. He got out and took the stripe off, left it inside there. He went on the highway. The highway is not like here. There was ditches on both sides of the highway. The road was not a road like a cement road. It was a dirt road. He went down there. He took out, and he was tired because he couldn't sleep there. He was very tired. In a ditch, he lay down there in the ditch, and he took a nap and fell asleep. All of a sudden, somebody hits him. Wakes him. You Jew, you get up. There was a policeman, a Polish policeman, which they were also watching around the neighborhood around there. He said, you better get out of here, because the night before another Jew was hiding here and they were killed by the SS. Oh, my brother woke up and took out there. He took another walk. He walked down there to a certain place where the trains was running. Trains was running over there, so he went into the train and he was trying to hide his face like this and this and that. And he noticed another Polak was looking at him and looking at him. He said, I'm afraid there was the SS on the train. He said to himself, no, I can't take a chance. He's going to give me right over to the SS. He jumped off the train and he kept hitchhiking some other places until it was for him to come down from Majdanek to get to Warsaw. It's like walking today here to go to Hawaii. He came down to Warsaw.
How far do you think it was?
Huh?
How many kilometers do you think it was to go?
Well, he was not walking, he was hitchhiking, and he tried differently hard to get there, because he couldn't walk.
And how long did it take him?
It took him about more than almost a week to get down to Warsaw. Came down to Warsaw, so he didn't know about the ghetto that was closed. The ghetto was closed. There was 3 police. There was a Polish policeman watching in front, an SS man, and a Jewish policeman. He walked around there, and he said, how can I get in? He couldn't get in, he couldn't get out. So he noticed the Jewish policeman, he came out and said, look, my family is talking Jewish. My family is inside of it. I want to get in. I want to get into my family. Let me in. He said, no, I can't do it right now. Look, the minute the assessment will walk away, then I'll let you in. He came in there. He found out that where we were living in that the second floor, and one room, me, my mother, and the younger children. We knocked at the door.
Was your father there also?
Huh?
Was your father there also?
My father was there. I knocked at the door. It was about 4 o'clock in the morning, and I was the one taking over to try to help to watch the watchdog with the family. And I said, who is it? Is it Meyer? And I opened the door. He came in. He just like falling in with that small sofa in the back. He lay down on the sofa and he slept, I think, about more than almost 2 days without a stop, because he catch up to sleep. And he woke up and he saw me and my father working that time. We used to melt gold and fix up something to us to be able to sell it. He says, he hollers, you working? What's the matter? Are you so blind and you so sick? We all going to die. I just came from there. And he took out he was working there on the Bekleidung. They took up the clothes and the shoes and everything there. He found in one of them, a piece of melted gold. Here, look, this is what I found there. One of the dead ones already. He started to believe, to see what's going on. And he set himself, look. And in the meantime, I was myself partially, still not to believe the true picture. After a while, he was home there, and at that time he said, whoever doesn't work for the Germans is called the wild ones. Just, I can't do like this, I have to go back to work. He went back to the same commander, the SS commander, and we told him, don't tell him that you got away from there. He said, I'm not afraid, I'm going to tell him. He told him, the guy, which the commander working, that I am back here, I'm going to work. He's supposed to be, most likely, he was more feeling, yes, if you could get away from there, you're back here, you deserve the job.
What job did he give him?
Well, digging, what job? What job did they want? Breaking up here, collectors here, things.
Who else was living with
you?
He got
caught. He went away, he got caught. That time happened that I was already working as a watchmaker at the time when he got caught with me. It was when I was called from the ghetto that I needed a clockmaker at that time. One of the assessment gave out to the Jewish leader, What was his name? I remember, I know his name. And they said they needed a clockmaker to fix one of these anniversary clocks, which they go back and forth. They used to call them 400-day clocks. Used to wind them once a year. Not like today what they make with the battery, the winding clock. And they called up, I need one of the clockmakers. I said to my father, I will go. I don't want you to go. And I said, in the meantime, I tried to make some hidings for my father. In the place that we were living, that room, I tried to make an extra closet, like a hiding closet. For the seconds when they come in, they used to come in, not come in, they used to break up with the guns, the doors, like running like this, like the devils. And I said, I go. I went down to the office, and I introduced myself first of all to that Jew, which I also had to give him first of all chabar me. I gave my gold watch just to introduce me. There always was something which is, anyway, I came into the assessment, and I introduced myself. The assessment comes in, and are you the clockmaker? Yes, I'm the clockmaker. He wouldn't talk to me like I talked to anybody. He had his whip in his hand and over my face, back and forth like this. The clock, if you fix the clock, if you don't fix the clock, you know what's going to happen. Well, my brother understood right away. So took the clock home and fixed it up, kept it a couple of days. He came back with the clock again to the thing, the same rat, and he introduced himself again. He said, the same way he talked with the whip, and the clock put on the table, the clock was working. He told him, you sit down. He was sitting about an hour and a half, and he comes back again and said, the clock is still working. So he said, now you are our clockmaker, our watchmaker. And I was that time thrilled, because this was a reward, because I had the chance and the right to move around during the curfew.
You were able to go in and out
I
after?
I could get out on I could go out on the street. I had a special way of introducing this Jewish emblem, and also a special thing that I have the right to be under. And at the time I walked down there to go on the boat, to go out to do something for the clock, what I have to do. I see again the building was closed that time with a gate in the front. You could not get in, get out. The only thing you can get out, there was a superintendent who let you out.
We're going to come right back to that. This is the end of tape 2.